Need motivation?
You better watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mel Robbins, and my take on her top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
I think that the work that we all have to do, every single one of us, whether you bulldoze, whether you people please, whether you avoid conflict, whether you're impulsive, whether you yo-yo your decisions, whatever it is that is your pattern, the constant trashing yourself. I think the journey of your whole life is figuring out how to truly like and love yourself.
If you are afraid of disappointing people, if you're afraid that you're not good enough, you may catch that in one area of your life, but as your life gets bigger and as you change, it'll creep in other areas. And one way that those patterns where you don't think you deserve it, or you don't think you're good enough, or you're terrified of disappointing people comes into play is when you start to expect the worst. And so catch it. That's the first step. You can't break your pattern unless you see it. And then you're going to replace it. And what I'm going to start doing is I've got this little app on my watch. You can set it on your phone where every 3 hours it reminds me to breathe. And I notice the second that the alarm goes off, I've been holding my breath. And so you can set a little alarm in your phone. Megan's laughing. Yeah. You can set a little alarm in your phone that just says savor. It's a reminder to take a minute. You can make it say take a minute. Take a minute, look around, compliment yourself on what's going right. Because expecting the worst is something you taught yourself to do. Guess what? You can teach yourself to take a minute and to savor what's going right. And the more you force yourself to do it, the more it'll become a habit. It comes back to the core message that I always have for you. No matter what's happening around or to you, you hold the power. Because you always have the power to have an honest conversation. You always have the power to discuss how things are impacting you. You always have the power to make requests. And you certainly have the power to draw boundaries. And you also have the power, by the way, if the culture gets worse and worse, or you just are tired of it because it's not changing, to go find a different job. The power is always in you. And I think that's something that's so important to constantly remind yourself. I get that I don't like where I am, but what could I do to change it? How can I change how I think about this? And I'm telling you right now, you know this. The second you start changing how you think about a situation, the situation changes. The second you start changing how you think about what your options are, you start to see them. The second you stop thinking that you're stuck or that you're a victim and you start thinking about how you solve something, you start to see solutions. And so the answer is always in you.
If you look at human development, we're the only species that literally can't survive without another human being taking care of you. And so we are biologically hardwired to bond with other people. And that is from the very beginning of when you come out, bonding with somebody else and making sure they pay attention to you is your survival imperative. So you are born needing somebody else. And I think what ends up happening is there's never that kind of clean break or pass off between needing your parents to take care of you, needing your friends' approval to fit in, to truly having ownership over giving yourself what you didn't get, giving yourself what you needed. And that's the piece that I've been doing a lot of during the great pause, is slowing down, because so much of my busyness was fueled by, praise me, love me. Am I doing enough? Please tell me I'm doing okay. Okay, I can breathe now. I'm okay now. And when I slow down, and maybe it's a function of the anxiety, that's when things get scary, because that's when you've really got to be with yourself.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
The reason why it's so important to start with a friend cleanse, and I'm sure a lot of you, how many of you heard that and you thought, oh my God, getting rid of people? Oh boy, I'm going to cleanse these friends. Yes and no. A friend cleanse is critical because the single most influential thing around you are the people that you hang out with. And if you have relationships that are toxic, if you have relationships that cause guilt, if you have relationships that are creating drama in your life, if you have relationships that are not equitable, guess what? That's creating the overwhelm. That's creating unhappiness. That's keeping you doubting yourself. If you have friends that have bad habits, guess what? That's making it really, really hard for you to change your habits for the good.
You have this behavior pattern where you snap. You have this behavior pattern where you yell and you get upset and you make people wrong and you don't mean to. If you are somebody who's ever said to yourself, I wish I could stop yelling, or I wish I could just snap, I could stop snapping. This video is absolutely unbelievable, okay? And the reason why is I explained this research that was so mind-blowing for me. It's called Ghosts in the Nursery. A lot of the patterns that you have that you don't have control over are patterns from your childhood, and they are there because when you were a kid, you experienced people in your life that were tense. Did you ever have a parent that was a yeller? Did you ever have a teacher that was a yeller, or a coach that was a yeller? And secretly in your little kid body, whenever your mom or dad would yell, or your coach would yell, or your teacher would yell, or your grandmother or grandfather would yell, you would feel tense, right? You would feel nervous. You would feel on edge. Of course, that's how we all feel, right? Well, here's the reason why you might have an issue, like I used to have an issue, where I would yell at my kids and then I'd feel terrible about it. I'd snap at my husband and then I'd feel terrible about it. Psychologists, and then I would say to myself, I'm not doing that again, I'm not doing that again, but I wouldn't have the ability to end it. Psychologists call this ghosts in the nursery. It means that any situation where you start to feel tense or you start to feel stressed out, guess what happens? Your body remembers what it was like when you were little to feel tense and stressed out. And what were the adults doing around you when you felt that way? They were snapping. They were yelling. And now here you are repeating the pattern. And you don't know why. And you feel guilty. And I'm explaining this to you because it wasn't until I thought, holy cow, like I know I don't want to snap at my husband. I know I don't want to take my anger from work out on my family. Why can't I stop this? That's the reason why. It's because it's a pattern that you remember from being a kid, that the adults around you were snapping or yelling or being mean anytime, and when they were, you felt tense and stressed out. So now that you're an adult, when you're tense and stressed out, you repeat the behavior that you witnessed. Crazy, right? So how do you stop it? Well, the first step to stopping anything is to actually understand what you're dealing with. Now that you know you're dealing with a pattern, now all you need to do is basically say, okay, I'm going to put a practice in place that's going to interrupt this pattern. What's the practice? Well, a really good one is before you walk in the house at the end of the day, if you're stressed out, take 5. Take 5 deep breaths. Like reset your mood, reset your energy before you walk in the house, and you'll be surprised by how much nicer you are to the people around you. Another thing that you can do, and this one's not so fun, is you can train your partner, your kids, your roommates, your family, that if you're trying to get a hold of how you bring stress home, you can train them to say to you, hey, don't take your work stress out on me. When somebody that you care about says that to you, it's a humbling experience. And the person that says it the most in my life is my son, Oakley. The youngsters seem to love to cross-check the adults. So be careful with taking that advice.
I know that in this next chapter that I consciously create, I want to have more fun. I really want to love the process.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it so hard on myself and be gripping everything so tight. And it's really easy for me to see it in other people because I know what it feels like in here. I'm working hard to break the patterns that still hold me back. And the big one that holds me back is bulldozing. It's literally when I start to feel any level of tension. This is particularly true in my marriage. I'm married to a saint. Thank God Chris Robbins meditates every morning. It's the only reason why we've lasted 26 years. It's how he puts up with me. When I feel my emotion rise, I immediately raise my voice.
Wow.
It's how I assert power in the relationship. And I am so committed, Lewis, to breaking that pattern.
Wow.
And being a more fun person to be around and a kinder person to be around.
First of all, stop talking about passion. Stop talking about launching a business, okay? When you think about it too big, it will paralyze you. If you're lucky and you're in a position where your bills are getting paid and you have the luxury of being able to try to think about what you want to do in this next chapter, here's where I want you to start. I want you to start with what energizes you. Now, how ironic is that, given that I'm speaking at the Energetic Women's Conference here in Indianapolis today? Why am I saying energizes you? And what am I talking about when I say energize? When I say energizes you, I'm asking you, what is it that you're curious about? What is it that you feel so expanded? You feel energized. You feel kind of excited whenever you're doing it. You're in a phase when you're just trying to figure out what's your next move, of just paying attention to your curiosity, paying attention to the things that interest you. The truth is, passion is just energy. If you're passionate about something, it means you're energized when you do it. So let's reverse engineer this and let's just ask yourself a simple question. What are you curious about? What energizes you? And if you allow yourself to explore things that energize you, you, my friend, will start to find the clues about what it is that you should and could be doing. Because all the research says that if you're doing something that you like, if you're doing something that you're curious about, you're not only going to enjoy it, you're going to be really good at it. Because if you like doing it, you'll spend more time doing it, which means you're going to get better at it. Sometimes when the dream is so big, the fact that it's so big becomes paralyzing. Because you think about where you are right now and you think, holy cow, that thing that I really want? How do you even start when the dream is so big? So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to shrink it down because you know me, I am all about simplicity. I'm all about making sure that the advice works for you, because if it doesn't work for you, you're not going to do it. And I'm all about switching how you think about things, making this smaller and making it something that I'm learning about rather than doing and launching and that somehow thinking about it differently frees up the ability to get started. If I get you to start doing that and you do this every day for 10 or 15 minutes, which you absolutely can, guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel momentum. You're going to feel like you're working on it. You're going to meet people that are interested in it. You're going to learn things that are going to lead to the next thing that you need to learn. And you will have mastered the art of getting started. And by doing something a little bit every day, you're also going to master the art of continuing to keep going. And from there, it'll snowball. I promise you. I promise you. You see, you're only ever running against yourself. There's room for all of us. There's room for you. to do the same thing. There's room for you to write that book. There's room for you to do those makeup tutorials. There's room for you to launch that restaurant. There's room for you to start your singing lessons. There's room for you to write that song. It is normal, and it is going to happen to you all the time that you are going to see people that seem to block out the sun whenever they make an announcement because they're that big and that amazing. I don't want you to allow yourself to shrink when somebody else is doing something that is similar to what you want to do. You remember that thing we used to do as kids where you go, actually, you can give yourself affection. I think, you know how I have this habit? I have this habit of always high-fiving myself in the mirror. I send myself into the day, go get a Mel. That's a form of affection. You can show yourself love through words and through gifts and through actions because love is a verb. And that's the most important thing to think about when you think about practicing self-love and developing habits around self-love. So love is a verb. What are the actions and habits and thoughts that you would have when you think about how you treat or speak to somebody you love? Self-love is about giving yourself all the things that you freely give to the people that you love. And what's so awesome is that when you learn and start practicing how to love yourself, it expands your capacity to love other people more deeply because you can't give other people something that you don't give to yourself. And I know you're like, whoa, I love other people, but you don't truly love other people if you can't love yourself because there's a part of you that doesn't feel worthy. And so you got to practice this stuff. And it's everything. Here are some ways that I practice. First of all, if someone you loved were struggling, what would you recommend they do in terms of how they take care of themselves? First of all, you got to get a good night's sleep. That's a form of self-love. Put good food in your body. That's a form of self-love. Take time for yourself every day. That's a form of self-love. Moving your body and exercising. That's a form of self-love. The biggest form of self-love for me is not criticizing myself. So when I catch myself criticizing myself, trashing myself, beating myself up, I kick that noise and garbage out of my head. And I replace it with something that I would say to somebody that I love. Instead of focusing on the things that are going wrong, I kick that thought out of my mind and I focus on the things that are going right. Another form of self-love for me is I'm constantly soothing and reassuring myself. Mel, hey, I know it's challenging right now, but this is preparing you for something. Mel, I know you're nervous, but you got this. You can face this. And notice I'm using my name, Mel. Study after study has come out that when you talk to yourself and use your own name, it has a much deeper impact on you. You have the experience of almost having someone else be saying it. It lands deeper. And it's also through gifts. I also give myself the gift of buying flowers every time I go to the grocery store. I started doing that a few years ago. I love flowers. I was always waiting for somebody else to give them to me. And it dawned on me, why the hell don't I just buy them for myself? And so I do. And you'd be surprised. $3, $4, $5, you can always find a small little bouquet at a grocery store. Stick it on your desk. It's a reminder that you love yourself. Remember, love is a verb. Just treat yourself how you would treat somebody that you love and practice it, and you'll get better and better at it. I am in the middle of working on my next book. It's called The High Five Habit. I believe with all of my heart and being that every man, woman, child, person, grandparent, everybody should infuse their days with habits of celebration and self-confidence. And the fastest and easiest and most science-backed way to quickly start to change how you see yourself is by adopting a simple habit of high-fiving your reflection in the mirror every single morning. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Are you serious, Mel Robbins? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I know it sounds dumb. But the reason why your first instinct when you think about waking up, whether you're in your robe or your underwear, your PJs or your birthday suit, and walking into that bathroom and having a moment with yourself and raising your hand and high-fiving yourself
is because your self-confidence is in the gutter. You believe some garbage about yourself. You think you're a bad person, or you're unworthy, or you're ugly, or nobody likes you. Or how about this one? This was the story of my life. I have f***ed up my life so badly, I might as well just flush it down the toilet. You have some narrative in your mind that is so negative that when you look in the mirror, you see somebody worth trashing. You see what's wrong. You pick apart your appearance. And I want to reverse that, because here's the deal about self-confidence. Self-confidence begins with you. You realize the word self is in there, right? I can't give you confidence. I can give you a little boost. I can give you tools. I can encourage you. But confidence is forged in fire. It's something that's within you. And here's the thing I want you to realize about confidence. You are a confident person. That's why you miss feeling that way. You can only miss what you know. You've just been blocked from the feeling of it. And wherever you are right now in your life, I'm telling you, confidence is in there. You just got to figure out how to tap into it. And you've been building confidence all along, by the way. Every time that you have fallen on your face, or you've tried something and failed, or you've gone out and thought you found the love of your life, and then your heart's broken, and then you pick yourself up again, and then you dust yourself. You're building confidence the entire time, because confidence is not built on the high days. Confidence is built on the low ones. Confidence is built when you are struggling. Because when you see yourself go for something and fall, when you see yourself try and get knocked down, when you see yourself stand back up after getting abused or traumatized or discriminated against and moving ahead, you are building this reserve within yourself where you know you can rely on yourself. You know you can face hard things and you can keep moving forward. You know you have your own back. So it's in there. Your life has been helping you build it. Now you got to just dig in and tap into it and use it to shut that critic up in your head. So the way you're going to do that is every morning, I'm not kidding, you're going to raise your hand in the mirror and high five yourself. Look at how many people are doing this. You're not the only one. For 5 mornings in a row, I want you to high five yourself. And when you do this, I want you to use the hashtag high five challenge. You know what's happening when you raise your hand up in the mirror? You are taking the lifetime positive association that you have with cheering for other people, believing in other people, celebrating other people, saying, let's go to other people. And you are marrying that positive association with your reflection. We are pulling into Boston College for our daughter's graduation from college. It feels like we just dropped her off here 4 years ago. A week ago. It is insane how fast time goes, isn't it, Chris?
It is almost disturbing.
It's disturbing. And so I always get really weepy and emotional on big milestone days because you become so present to how quickly your life is passing you by. And the only advice that I have for myself or anybody else in this moment is just be in it. Be present for it all. The ups, the downs, every day, just be in it. Because you are going to blink your eyes and your life's going to be over. I mean, literally, I don't mean to be like morose about it, but it's true. And we spend so much energy wishing things would pass, wishing that something would be over, wishing that this moment would change. And I'm telling you right now, your life is the greatest school you will ever attend. Every day is teaching you something. Every day is a lesson. And the lesson right now is that we should have showed up earlier because the traffic is very big. For years, when I felt stressed out, when I felt overwhelmed, when I started to feel burnt out, I would literally react to the feeling of being stressed and overwhelmed by stepping on the accelerator. I used to believe that if I just ran faster, if I just moved quickly, I would be able to outrun the overwhelm that I was feeling. And what I have found time and time and time again is that you cannot gain control by speeding up. The way that you gain control of anything in life is by slowing down. And whenever I feel like my own life is like that car where the wheel's shaking and I'm going and I feel like I'm going to lose control and my instinct is to step on the gas and go, 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 I have taught myself in those moments to stop. Get off social media, cancel meetings, take a couple personal days, put your phone away, get out in nature if you can, take a deep breath, start your morning slowly, because it's in those moments where you slow everything down that you really gain control again, because you start to get located in your body. Bottom line, if you feel overwhelmed, do what I did. Do not step on the accelerator. Take the off-ramp. Slow down. Take a day off. You will learn when you take your foot off the gas and you allow yourself to coast to a stop that the world will go on. You need a break. And when you stop racing around and running and dealing with the stress and blah, 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 you will literally see in the calm what the path forward is. I wanted to make this video because I know in some area of your life, you are wanting to start something, you're wanting to put yourself out there more, and you are holding yourself back. And one place that I see this playing out all the time is the fact that so many people, probably you, are self-conscious and nervous about putting videos online. You're self-conscious and nervous about talking about your business or sharing the breakthroughs that you're having or just showing up in a bigger, bolder, more self-expressed way because, heck, it makes your life more fun when you do. And so you have this deep yearning to be doing more, and then I know exactly what happens to you. You look at the number of people that follow you. You then say, who the hell am I to say that? You then go, nobody's going to watch it anyway. And I want to share with you brand new research that blows that lame excuse, although normal excuse, right out of the water. It was published literally this month from Ohio State University, and it proves that when it comes to video content, the video content that people find compelling has nothing to do with the number of views that it has. It has to do with the person and the message that's being communicated. To be compelling, to make an impact, to be influential, because I know everybody wants to raise their influence and their visibility and to show up in bigger ways. It is all about the message, and you're in control of that. Do you communicate with passion? Do you have conviction about what you're talking about? You could be talking about, I don't know, whether you like white cords or these like black cords with this end, or whether you like this kind of end or this end, or whether you like this cap, or whether you, I love to drink this way because I have a big nose, and then this way. And I'm telling you, you don't have to have this thing on. You could literally talk about anything. And if you bring passion and you bring conviction to what you're talking about, people will pay attention. That's what real influence is. It's the ability to show up in ways and have conviction and passion about the things that you believe in. Whether you're talking about a water bottle cap or you're talking about how to be healthier, happier, or more effective in your life. So enough with the excuses, enough with worrying about how many followers you have or whether or not Aunt Sue is gonna like the video or not or what people are gonna think. The only thing that matters is the conviction and passion that you communicate with. And of course, getting started. So based on the research, get started, put that video out. You gotta be honest with yourself. If there are things about your appearance that are within your control, whether it is the shape that you're in, whether it's the health choices that you're making, whether it's how you take care of yourself in terms of self-love, and you're not taking action in those areas, the lack of action says to your brain, you don't care about yourself. And so what I want you to do is pick one thing, one behavior that you could do every day. The high five's one of them. Pick another one. And I want you to practice doing it. And it's a behavior. If you think about the person that you want to become, what's that person do every day that you don't do right now? And when you start to do the thing that the person you want to become is doing, you leverage something called behavioral activation therapy. And that is a whole body of research that says when you act like the person you want to become, it's the most powerful way to change a habit. It's even better therapy than talk therapy, because the action proves to your brain that you're becoming that person. You're seeing the change through the action. And so then the brain catches up and starts to relate to you like a person that's confident, or a person who adores their appearance, or a person that celebrates themselves exactly as they are. We moved to Vermont. I got a brand new primary care doctor. And I thought he said something really interesting. He's this great guy. He settled here because his wife's family is from Vermont. And so he's now lived here for 40 years. And at the end of my first appointment with him, he said a really interesting thing to me. He kind of chuckled because, of course, I'm very entertaining and bubbly and all this stuff. And he said, it's going to be really fun to watch what happens to you. And I'm like, what doctor says that to somebody? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I'll tell you, Mel. In the years that I've been practicing as a primary care doctor in southern Vermont, I have seen so many people move to Vermont. They're seeking a quieter lifestyle. They're seeking a change, a new chapter. And what I find is, what you're actually seeking is a safe haven and you're running away from your problems, a funny thing happens. Your problems always go with you. And when you move somewhere very quiet, the solitude just magnifies the that you were trying to get away from. And so if you're starting a new chapter because you're excited and you're reinventing yourself, that's fabulous. Still take time to complete the last chapter that you were in. So you step into the new chapter with all of the wisdom and the gratitude and the learning and the growth that you gained. If you are starting a new chapter, as so many of us do, because we are running away from the old us, we're running away from a bad relationship, we're closing the door on something that wasn't working, you better make sure you take the time to think through and journal about this last chapter, who you've been, the habits you no longer want to repeat, the mistakes that you made, what you've learned, what you're running from, and more importantly, what changes you're going to make and how this new chapter is going to support you in doing it and in becoming the person that you're meant to be. Without that intentional moment of reflection and without that intentional moment where you're going to list out the behaviors and thinking patterns and habits you're changing, my doctor's right. You're just going to take all that crap you're running from right into this new chapter. I think I am engaged in emotional eating right now. It is 2:22 in the afternoon. The wheels are off today. I know why. The reason why is because I did not stick to my normal routine. And I've noticed since I did not stick to my routine, my day has sort of slid off the rails in terms of the decisions that I'm making. It's really random. Like I had my son's chicken nuggets for lunch, and there's half an apple that I ate. I have not finished the amount of water I normally drink. It is 2:23, and I made myself an ice cream sundae because, you know, why the hell not? And so as I'm sitting here enjoying my ice cream sundae, I just thought to myself, God, am I emotionally eating right now? Oh my God, this is so good. If I really unpack what I'm feeling right now, it's raining, it's freezing. I am mentally in a creative block, and I'm going to get this tool that we use on the Mel Robbins show out. I call it the word wheel. So I'm going to show you the word wheel right now. Here's how you use a word wheel. The average person can only name 3 emotions: happy, sad, and angry. But our emotions are actually much deeper and more complex. And the secret to getting unstuck or untriggered or freed up in any situation is to find the words that describe what you are truly feeling. So I'm going to start with the core emotion of anger and fear and work out from there. And so as I look at the word wheel, I feel inadequate as a writer. I feel worried.
that I'm not going to have a creative breakthrough. I feel helpless. The big one is I feel inadequate as a writer. Whoa, big breakthrough. So I am feeding my inadequacy with an ice cream sundae. You know what's interesting? Is simply finding the word that I feel inadequate as a writer. And that makes me feel afraid that the book isn't going to be good, that it's not going to be as good as I want, it's not going to do as well, it's not going to get any accolades or good reviews, it's not going to make a difference in your life. As you identify the feeling, and for me it's inadequate, that sundae doesn't taste very good anymore. Because it wasn't a sundae that I was craving, it was reassurance and comfort from this deeper feeling that I was feeling. Wow, that's powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff. So if you are at a moment where you catch yourself emotionally eating, or you just feel untethered or numb, pull out the word wheel. You can find it at melrobbins.com. And I think you'll find it to be a really incredible tool that will help you locate what you're truly working through. And instead of reaching for an ice cream sundae, which honestly is going to now tank my mood because of all the sugar and make me feel lethargic, if you can identify the word, which for me is inadequate, inferior, worried, frustrated, you can let those feelings rise up, move through them, and then move on. Two hours later, and let me tell you the impact of having fed my feelings. First of all, I am totally bloated. So I realize that that's not big, but you know, for me, my stomach is just like, oh, because all that sugar and dairy that I just pounded down is now sitting here like a rock. And this is the problem with emotional eating, is you get caught in this cycle where you feed these feelings and then your body starts to tank and your mood tanks and your stomach gets bloated. And so then you start to make yourself wrong and feel ashamed and feel like a bad person because you did it. So how do you stop emotional eating? And what business do I have giving any of us advice given that I just did it? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do tomorrow when I inevitably hit that creative block. Is emotional eating, you know that it's emotional if it's comes on suddenly, if you aren't just craving something, but you are reaching for something that is a treat or that's soothing. And before I do that tomorrow, when my writer's block inevitably happens again, I will take a deep breath and I will ask myself, what am I feeling? Why am I reaching for this food? Am I hungry? Or am I trying to soothe or comfort or distract myself? Because I was clearly trying to soothe and distract myself from the feelings that writer's block was bringing up. And now I need to get some gas X or something, because I got to distract myself from the gas pains that I have from my emotional eating. But, you know, honestly, the discomfort I'm feeling right now, that's not going to stop me from doing it tomorrow. The only thing that will stop this pattern is spotting the pattern and using the tools that I just gave you. Identify what you're feeling, ask you why it is you're reaching for this. If you're not hungry, but you're trying to soothe, distract, or reward yourself, you're feeding some feeling. Recognize the feeling, put down the ice cream, go for a walk, choose something healthy, address the feeling. Don't reach for the food. So there are 7.5 billion people on this incredible planet of ours, but do you know how many of them you're responsible for? Truly? One. You see, while you're busy taking care of everybody else, who is it that's taking care of you? You were given one human being, one mind, one soul, one body, one life. We are so bananas focused about what people who know nothing about what's going on in your life think. And what happens is you can get so concerned about the opinions and the judgments of all these other people that you're taking care of and that you're being nice to, that you forget about the one person's opinion that actually matters, and that's yours. And when silencing yourself and being way more concerned about what everybody thinks becomes a pattern, you are holding yourself back. You don't go after your dreams because you're way too caught up in what everybody else is thinking. For every person that's got a side eye or an eye roll or an opinion about what you're doing, I promise you, when you make the decision to live your life for you, the right people will find you. Is this going to be easy to chart your own path, to hear what people have to say, but not let it define what you do next? It's going to take a little bit of practice, but once you make the decision to live your life for you, I promise you, everything will fall into place.
My sparkly sneakers. This is a great story about a bunch of topics. It's a story about confidence. It's a story about being comfortable in your own skin. It's a story about being yourself, no matter where you are or what you're doing. And it's a story about the power of your unique self-expression. And your unique self-expression comes out and is amplified when you feel comfortable in your own skin. I got into the speaking business, 6 or 7 years ago. I had a TEDx talk that went crazy viral. That's what started the speaking business. And when I first got into the speaking business, I was really intimidated because I was new to it. And I wanted to do a very good job and I wanted to fit in. So I looked around at what all the top people in the industry of motivational speaking and speaking on the corporate circuit were doing. And I noticed that all the women were dressed in heels, wearing pencil skirts or beautiful dresses, the kind of thing that you might see a news anchor wearing, like a nice dress, heels. So I just wore what everybody else was wearing. Didn't even occur to me to wear something else because here I am trying to break into a new industry. So I look at everybody at the top, I copy what they're doing, and I am not comfortable in high heels. Yes, if my husband Chris and I are going out on date night, I can rock them like the best of them. But walking through a convention center in them, standing on a stage for an hour in a pair of heels while you're trying to hold in your stomach because you're being broadcast on a big screen and you're wearing a dress, like it was the least comfortable outfit I could possibly wear, very self-conscious in it. I'm not that graceful in a pair of heels, so I sort of like poo on a stage. But that's what I did for the first couple of years. So I was in Miami. This must have been probably 5 years ago. I was in Miami and I had just gotten off stage, take off the heels, take off the dress, put on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. I got like an hour to kill before I have to leave for the airport. I'm going to fly to Vegas because I've got a speech in Vegas the next morning. So I'm walking down Collins Ave in South Beach in Miami. And I walk past this store. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. I loved this store. And there in the window were the most amazing high-top sneakers I had ever seen in my entire life. I was like a moth to the flame. Let me show you these bad boys because these are the originals. This right here, notice the gold shimmery sparkle and the confident blaze orange. I didn't own anything like this. I'd never seen anything like this. I immediately thought, whoa, this I bet is what like a Justin Bieber kind of wears. I mean, these are insanely cool. I went inside and they were pretty expensive. I'd never spent that kind of money. I wasn't a sneakerhead yet. But I thought, hey, I spend that kind of money on a pair of nice heels, so why not treat myself to a pair of sneakers, okay? So I get back to the hotel, I pack up, I hop the flight, I get to Vegas. Now, I wake up the next morning and I have a tech check, which is where you rehearse the speech and go through like all the technology rehearsals before the event starting. My tech check is at 7:30, the doors to the event open at 8, and I'm on stage at 8:30. And I had a red dress, my heels, or so I thought. So I crack open, that's what I was planning on wearing. I crack open the suitcase, there are no heels. I have left the heels in the hotel room back in Miami. All I have are the Birkenstocks that I wore on the plane and I wore out in Vegas last night, and my new Justin Bieber high-top sneakers. And I have exactly 15 minutes to get to the tech rehearsal and nothing else is open. So, Birkenstocks, Justin Bieber, I think we'll go with the Justin Bieber sparkly high tops. I slapped those puppies on. I walked from my hotel room all the way through the casino floor, past all the restaurants and the shops, to the convention center, which is like a 2-mile walk. I was so happy to be not only in my red dress, but more importantly, in my Justin Bieber sneakers, because it was super comfortable to walk there that way. I get to the backstage area, and for the first time in 2 years, something happened. And let me tell you what happened. One of the guys that was on the production crew turned and goes, cool sneakers. That was like the first time somebody in production had really acknowledged me for something other than the job in 2 years. So I was like, And as I started walking toward the backstage area, everybody I passed, cool kicks. Oh, those are cool. Oh, those are cool. And I'm like, this is wild. Nobody's ever complimented on people are. And so I did the tech rehearsal, and then this was the moment of truth. When I walked out onto that stage, it was at the MGM Arena, and there were like 5,000 real estate agents in the audience. I was there to deliver a speech for RE/MAX. It was the first time I'd ever walked on a stage where I actually felt like myself. It was also the first time that I felt the audience kind of lean forward and go, oh, she seems kind of cool. But when you walk onto a stage in heels and a dress, you're like the authority. And you're on a stage and you're talking at people. There's something about walking onto a stage or walking through life and having something fun that you're wearing that makes you relatable and interesting and real. And from that moment forward, I have never not worn sparkly sneakers for work. I wore them every day on my daytime talk show. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I probably have 20 pairs of these. This is my favorite. These are my favorite. Well, these are my favorite because these are the originals, but I would say these are my second favorite because I like the low top and I love the blue. I love these, which have a big silver kind of thing. These are super comfortable. And I've got a bunch of these, and these did not even come with sparkles. So I literally bought Swarovski crystals or whatever the hell they're called and got a glue gun out and put them on myself. If you're looking for sparkly sneakers, there's all kinds of them out there these days. It's the coolest thing in the world. Bedazzled sneakers are a thing. Whether you go to DSW or Nordstrom's or Zappos or anywhere, you can find them. And so the moral of the story, the secret to confidence is being comfortable in your own skin.
I have this habit of every single morning, I stand in front of the mirror and I take a moment and I raise my hand and I give my reflection a high five. And there is so much science behind this. So instead of seeing yourself, right, and having this moment in the mirror, you know what the average person does? First of all, we beat ourselves down. So I would look in the mirror for 40 some years and be like, oh my God, my freaking jowls look like saddlebags on a goddamn horse going in the Grand Canyon. My eyes have my neck is only striped. My one boob's hanging lower than the other. I look like my gray hair. Like I start bringing myself down. And when you start going down that road with your reflection, then your thoughts go to, I didn't get to that email. I forgot to text Lisa back. Oh my gosh, the dog still needs to be walked. I've got 9 minutes for my first Zoom call. You're now checking out. And that moment in the mirror every morning could be a profound moment where you lift yourself up and you check back in with your intention. So the first piece of research, and this is recent from Harvard Business School, is that a simple moment in the morning where you set an intention about who you're going to be today impacts productivity, how you show up as a leader. It impacts your confidence. It impacts your mood all day long. Just that simple moment of setting an intention. So that's research number one. Instead of standing in front of the sink in your bathroom and criticizing your appearance or mindlessly going on autopilot, check back in and let's teach you to make it a habit to lift yourself back up. Second piece of research, and this comes from a whole field of study called neurobics. Neurobics is like aerobics for your mind. I didn't make this up. This is literally, you can speed up the development of new neural pathways by marrying physical activity with a change in thought.
And so traditionally, I know you've covered this on your show. If you, for example, were to brush your teeth, I'm a right-hander, if you were to brush it with your other hand and think a new thought, the fact that your brain is focusing on brushing with your non-dominant hand activates more focus on the new thought. It accelerates the learning. So you take neurobics, a physical activity with a different thought, and let's talk about a high five, for example. What does a high five mean to you?
That somebody did something awesome or I did something awesome.
Correct. And if you think about the times in your life when you've gotten a high five, it's because somebody's like, Tom, you're amazing. Tom, get your attitude out of the can. You got this. Tom, you're going to make this shot. Tom, we can still win. I believe in you. Keep going. You have a lifetime positive association with giving other people high fives stored right here in your subconscious mind. When you raise your hand to your own reflection, it is impossible for you to think, God, I look fat. Boy, am I an asshole. I really screwed up my life. You can't do it because your lifetime association with this motion is all, I believe in you, I got you, I see you, I celebrate you. And so you, in the moment of doing it, override decades of negative self-talk. It's incredible. Now, have you ever gotten a high five where somebody misses the hand or it's sort of like, it sucks, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, what do you do when that happens?
I redo it.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's because a high five requires you to be present and there is an intention behind it. So you can't raise your hand to your own reflection without now grounding yourself in the moment. I don't believe in toxic positivity. I don't believe that you just like put a positive spin on things and things will disappear and be fine. That's not how the world works. There are very real challenges that you may be facing. You may be facing abuse, violence. You may be up against structural and systematic racism and bias and discrimination. You may be facing extreme poverty. You may be facing all kinds of very real and traumatic things in your life. Simply putting a positive spin on things will not change those very real obstacles. What it changes is you. When you change how you look at things, it changes your ability to deal with the things in your life. It changes your ability to face hard things. And it gives you the courage and the confidence and the resilience and the stamina to chip away at these large obstacles or these past experiences that created trauma or negative self-talk. It's going to give you the ability to take the action that you need. And so when you hear me talk about mindset, I want you to understand this doesn't make things disappear. It actually empowers you to be your greatest self, to face the stuff that's very difficult. You know, because confidence, courage, resilience, these are all things that are inside you. And you don't build this stuff in the high moments. You build your confidence and your courage and your resilience in the low moments. It's like steel. It's forged in the fire of your life. And so even in those moments where you feel like life is punching you in the face and you just want to give up and you have that like, I can't handle this anymore and why does this keep happening to me? I am telling you, do not give up because you are building your inner strength every step of the way through these experiences that you're facing in your life. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying you deserve it. I'm saying you have the power within you to face whatever you're dealing with, to find your strength, and to actually change yourself and the situation and the trajectory that you're on for the better. There is no fast track to transformation. You have to work on it in little ways every day. You can't buy self-esteem or self-love. You must build it. You must stand face to face with the part of you that you hate. You must forgive yourself for the hurt that you've caused, especially the hurt you've caused to yourself. And then you got to do the work to become a better you. It's the only way to create the self-respect and build the self-esteem that you want. You can change. There are do-overs in life because you get one every single morning when you wake up, look in the mirror, and decide who you're going to be today. You can choose. You can change. No, you can't go back in time, but you can have your own back as you use the time that you have now to take control and create a new chapter that makes you proud of who you are. The hardest part of all this is flipping your focus from what you hate and are trying to fix toward what you want to create. Remember, the windshield in a car is bigger than the rearview mirror for good reason. You're not supposed to go backwards. You're supposed to drive your life forward, and that means you must start looking ahead. Yeah, you've screwed up, me too. The worst things that you've done, witnessed, or survived, they are your most powerful teachers. So stop making yourself wrong about what happened and unpack it. Understand it. Face yourself in the mirror and learn the lessons that are woven into every mistake, every regret you ever have, and every painful thing you've ever experienced. Here's the profound insight I gained that I want you to hear. You aren't broken, you're just blocked. Forgive yourself for all the things you did while you were just trying to survive.
The Dallas Uber driver.
Oh.
So as somebody who has gotten into countless Ubers, and some small percentage of them know who I am, and then of course they start asking questions. Talk to me about chasing your dreams and this quote that you have that an aha moment does not necessarily lead to an aha life.
Yeah, the Uber driver in Dallas that's in this book. I get choked up when I think about him. An aha moment.
Why choked up?
I get choked up because what happens for me every single day is, and you hear from people every single day, you've got millions and millions of people that are inspired by, empowered by, impacted by your content. There are people out there that use your work as a lifeline, and it is humbling. And what I am really present to in the work that I'm putting out, in the stuff that I'm sharing, whether it's my failures or the things that I'm using that are helping me in my own struggles, is just how much people are holding themselves back and how much pain people feel. Because most folks know what they dream about and what they want. And yet, they're spending all of their time and energy arguing against what they want. And so you can have all these epiphanies. I hope that when somebody listens to our conversation and watches this, that they have a massive aha moment. But it's not going to mean if you don't take action and do something about it. The aha moment is the door that opens. But your new life does not begin unless you step through the door. And most people, and that's what was so kind of, the simple idea of high-fiving yourself, of encouraging yourself, of supporting yourself. Most people, when you have an aha moment and the door to your new life opens up, instead of going, I got this, let's go, and high-fiving yourself to step forward, most of us go, I don't know if I'm worth it. I don't know if right now is the right time to do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I've failed so many times, I can't go through that door. And that's the problem I want to attack right now. That there is somewhere in your life that you know what you want. You can feel it pulling you. And you are actively arguing against it. You're bringing yourself down. You're beating yourself out. Like, people will cheer for you and me. They won't cheer for themselves. I'm the same way. And so this Uber driver, the story that you're talking about, I get into the car and we start driving, and I'm on the phone as we're driving, and I'm having a conversation with somebody about this daytime talk show that I launched, which was a dream with Sony Pictures Television, and then was promptly fired after season 1. It was a huge failure because we didn't make it to season 2. Huge failure in real world terms. Right. Massive success when it comes to the timeline of my life. And so I'm talking to this person about the talk show. I hang up the phone and this Uber driver comes alive. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in my cab. And I'm like, why? And he says, because I want to talk to you about something. I think you can help me. And I'm like, great. How can I help you? And he says, I have a dream of being a Oscar-winning actor and creating opportunities for other Black and Latino men to do the same in acting. And I'm like, freaking fantastic. What the are you doing in Dallas? Right? You know, the guy's 25. And so I go, you know, the game is in New York and LA. I mean, sure, you can act, you can write stuff, you can be here in Dallas, but why are you not in LA? Why are you not in New York? And he's like, you're right, you're right, you're right. I need to move to LA. I'm like, why not? And he says, I have $700 in my bank account. And I'm like, that's freaking fantastic. You have $700 in a car? Dude, drop me off and get driving. What are you waiting for? And so we have this whole conversation, and I write about it in this book, where I am actively arguing for his dream, and he is actively arguing against his dream. And what is so sad is throughout this conversation, Tom, he's like, you're right. $700 could get me there. You're right. I am only 25. You're right. If I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about what I want to be doing, I'm not only going to drive in circles, my whole life is going to spin in circles as I think about what I want and I don't do shit about it. And then you are going to find yourself not at 25, but at 45 or 65. And you're going to be so filled with regret that you never put a bet on yourself. And so this conversation ends with him declaring that he's going to go to California and me giving him a bunch of tools that I talk about in this book. And the point of the story is, does he move or not? I don't know. The point of the story is it's so easy to see what somebody else should do. It's so easy to cheer for somebody else. We all do that, right? We cheer for our favorite sports teams. We follow our favorite influencers and authors. We plan birthday parties for our friends. We take on extra work from our colleagues. We support everyone around us. We do not know how to do it for ourselves.
There are 4 techniques that I use whenever I'm going to have a difficult conversation that help me stay focused on what I need to talk about instead of getting hijacked by my emotions. Number 1, I always start the conversation by acknowledging my responsibility in the mess that we have to talk about. Whether it's the fact that I've avoided dealing with this sooner or whether there's something that I've done that's contributed to the situation, I acknowledge it right up front. And one of the reasons why that's so important is because by accepting some responsibility, you're diffusing the other person's emotion. You're also honoring them a little bit, and it sets a much more level playing field for when you get into the difficult things that you need to talk about. It's also going to put the person that you're speaking to a little at ease, so they're going to be able to listen. Number 2, you want to have a goal. Never go into a difficult conversation without an outcome defined before you go into it. The reason why the outcome is so important is because this conversation is going to be a roller coaster. The person that you're talking to might get upset. You yourself might feel emotional at some point, whether you're angry or you're triggered or you get sad. And so when you ride the roller coaster of emotion, the thing that is going to stabilize your thoughts is the outcome that you're causing. You're having this conversation because you're committed to making the relationship better. You're having this conversation because this isn't working, and so we need to end it powerfully. You're having this conversation because you want to give somebody some feedback that's not so fun to tell them, but you're giving it to them because you're committed to their success. Okay? So that goal, you feel yourself getting emotional, you come back to it, you come back to it, you come back to it. Third thing you're going to do a lot in this conversation, you're going to listen and you're going to validate. So you're going to say what you need to say, and then the other person's going to react. And instead of arguing or debating, I want you to listen and I want you to validate what the person is saying. It may sound counterintuitive, but honestly, one of the most powerful things you can do in any conversation, whether you're fighting with your kids over curfew, or you're arguing with somebody at work over workloads, whatever it may be, is hear where the person's at. The moment you say, wow, that must be really tough, what you're dealing with, or, oh, I totally get why you now were avoiding me. If I felt the way that you felt, I'd probably do the same thing. The second you validate somebody, they immediately stop defending themselves. It's unbelievable, actually. Unbelievable. You got to try it. Validate, validate, validate. It is the most powerful thing. And then once, of course, they feel validated that you've heard them, now they can listen. And that's when you come back to the final thing, which is you're going to restate always the outcome. Keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it. And yeah, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have all kinds of emotions come up because you've been avoiding this conversation. But I'm telling you right now, if you find the confidence and the courage to go and to start this thing, acknowledge your responsibility, have an outcome in mind, validate the other person, validate, 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 and keep talking till you hit that outcome, you're going to be really, really amazed at how much easier these things become. And if you want to make it even easier on yourself, rehearse it with another friend first, somebody that's not involved in the situation. Because again, difficult conversations comes down to one important thing: the ability for you to separate your emotion about doing it from the things you actually need to talk about and the outcome that you want to cause. Let's start with a metaphor. I want you to think about your life like a book. A book is divided into chapters. Some chapters are boring and a grind to get through, and others are exciting and you hope they never end. And right now, you're in a chapter. Maybe this chapter of your life is a grind. It's overwhelming and unsatisfying, and you feel stuck reading it over and over again. Maybe you want to start a new chapter, but you don't know what the next chapter is about, and so you keep rereading the one you're currently in. Here's the greatest thing about life. You don't have to know where this next chapter is going. You just have to start writing it. I want you to envision a blank page. What do you want to write? What do you see for yourself? I don't want you to try to figure out what job or business you should write on that page. What belongs on that page are the dreams that you have for yourself and your life. And all that's required to start writing is to start saying yes instead of telling yourself no. Yes, you should start that podcast. Yes, you should go back to school. Yes, you should try to launch that business. Whatever it is that you've been doing, whether you're 3 years out of college and it's a job you can't stand from a major you hate, or it's a 20-year career that you're just burnt out on, or maybe you stepped away from the workforce to raise your kids, or perhaps like so many people right now, you've been laid off. This is the moment to write your next chapter. You're not too late. You're right on time. All you need is a blank page and a pen. One of the things that I think you should always come back to first is take a look at how you set your day up, because how you set it up is how it ends up. How do I set my day up so that I'm practicing what I call simple discipline? Simple discipline is nothing more than making and keeping simple promises to yourself, repeating it every day. The way that you start to change the big things is you change the small things. Make tiny, teeny, teeny promises to yourself and then keep them. So how do you build simple discipline? Here are some core skills that I do every morning that have helped me. Number one, I do not sleep with the phone. Number two, when the alarm goes off on my phone, it's not near me, so I have to get my ass out of bed. I get up, I make my bed, I get moving, I get my exercise clothes on, I move my body, I then journal. I take 10 minutes to myself to plan my day. When I do that, my day is incredible. I believe that how you start your day dictates how the day goes. You should not just adopt somebody else's morning routine and expect it to work for you. You need to customize this. You are unique. I think about, how do you come alive for yourself in the morning? What are the 5 senses? What's the first thing that you see when you wake up? For me, it's a painting that I manifested out of thin air. It reminds me that what you put your mind to and what you work toward, it will become a reality. I always light incense because it makes my senses and my nose come alive. I'm super mindful over what I taste first thing in the morning. My grandma always had vinegar in the morning with honey and hot water. I picked the one thing that matters to me today. One of the biggest objections that people had to standing in front of the mirror, take a moment, look at yourself, and then raise your hand, is people said over and over and over again, I haven't done anything worthy of high-fiving. high-fiving feels like a celebration. I don't have the number on the scale that I want. I don't like my bank account. I don't enjoy what I do for a living. I've made a shitload of mistakes. I'm struggling with trauma. I don't have anything to celebrate. And what I realized is people are making a fundamental mistake. You are withholding the very support, empowerment, and celebration that you need to change and to do the hard work and to face the things that you're scared of. And that's why you're not changing.
I think that confidence is the willingness to try. See, I anchor confidence in action because I don't believe that belief in self is the thing that makes people act confidently. I believe that when you are willing to try, even though you doubt yourself, that the act of trying and seeing yourself move through your doubts and your fears and your procrastination and your perfectionism, the act of moving through it is what starts to build belief in self. So I define confidence as the willingness to try. Arrogance is believing you're better than anybody else. And I think confidence is this quiet knowing that you can rely on yourself. Even the most confident people, so people that rely on themselves and people that are willing to try and take risks, hit periods where they really doubt themselves and they don't feel confident in their decision making and their actions. And so I think it's a skill that comes and goes and that you'll always be working on it because the whole point about life is to grow. And as you grow, you're going to face new challenges. And whenever you face a new challenge, it's going to, bring up fears and doubt. And that's why you're going to need to work on the skill of confidence, which is the willingness to try. That's where it begins.
I am making cabbage farro soup. It sounds disgusting. It is delicious. It is from my absolute favorite cookbook, 6 Seasons by Joshua McFadden. But that's not why I made this video. I made this video because I want to share a recipe for relieving pain, tension, frustration, and hurt in your life. Every day, all kinds of stuff happens to you, right? Some good, some bad, some frustrating, some things that are amazing. And for everything that happens to you, there are 3 versions of what happens. There's your version and the story that you tell yourself about what happened. There's a second version, which is the version that the other person that's involved in the story tells themselves about what happened. And then there's the truth. And the truth is just the facts. No story, no explanation. It's just what's so. So I'm going to give you a quick example. So I'm sitting here cooking and I've got a lot I got to clean up. I got stuff all over the counter. I've been working on some architectural plans over there. I got to clean that up. So I'm starting to clean up and I come over here to the sink and I notice someone that I love's egg dish is right there. Now, I'm not going to out them. I'm also going to not out the fact that part of the breakfast that they were creating for themselves, which involved sweet potato and making some eggs, is still out, and that said person is nowhere to be found. So let's talk about the 3 versions of this story. Version number 1 is my version, which goes a little something like, why does my family believe that I am the maid? This is being done to me. How rude. They expect me to do this, like on and on and on. You can see that story about the fact that there is an egg dish here and there are knives that need to be cleaned. That story I'm telling myself gets me really jacked up and angry and frustrated and feeling used and annoyed. And of course, when your mood switches, it can hijack your whole day. Now, version number 2 would probably be, holy cow, I'm coming back later. Of course you don't need to clean it up. I'm just in an online jam session working on a song I have to record for my class. And in fact, if we're quiet, we can hear her. Rose in your eyes. Now here's the cool part. You don't have to tell yourself a story.
You can just see something and not make it mean anything at all. And in fact, here she comes. She's done doing her thing and she's coming back in to clean up. I torture myself and you torture yourself for no good reason. So check your story, stick with the facts, and I think you'll find that life is a lot less stressful and frustrating. I have been practicing this habit for a little over a year. And it all began in April of 2020. And this is not something that I was like, okay, I got to write a book. It's got to have a 5 in it. It's going to be 5 years since I've written a book. Thank you, dyslexia and ADHD. What am I going to write about? That's not how this happened. The high 5 habit saved me. It was a ladder that helped me climb out of a hole I had fallen into emotionally, physically, spiritually. And a year later, after practicing what is going to sound like a weird, stupid thing, which you will resist. And Jay, you and I are going to unpack this because it's sad why everybody resists it. It has to do with the dust that's accumulated. And I will tell you, after a year of practicing this, I don't even see a face or a body. I see a soul. I don't even have to high five myself. I still do because it feels good, and we're going to explain the science that is bananas about why this actually works for everybody who tries it, because this is not something that's new. You are tapping into programming that's already in your mind and body and now directing it back at yourself. It's incredible. I don't ever criticize myself. I don't ever see what's wrong. I see a human being who's trying, who deserves love and respect, and I know that it's my job to give it to her. You know, the 5-second rule, which I created, I don't know, over a decade ago, that's gone on to help me change my whole life. It's a little starting ritual and a brain hack that you can use to help yourself take the actions and change the thoughts that change your life. It helped me be more productive. It helped me get stuff done. The high 5 habit has changed who I am. It has deleted a lifetime of criticism and negativity from my mind, and it has reprogrammed the soundtrack to be somebody that's supportive and a cheerleader. It's extraordinary. My brand of self-help is Mel's life is kind of up at the moment, and she can't figure out how to help herself, so she stumbles by accident on something really stupid on its face, and it feels good. And then I share it with my audience, and if they pick up on it, then I'm like, okay, we're on to something. So for me, the high 5, Tom, began, I'm fired from my talk show, my book contract is canceled, every speech has been canceled, my kids are now home, so we've got 3 kids, 22, 20, age 15, all in varying states of distress. I am triggered because my origin story, as you know, from being on the show and us being friends, the 5-second rule was 12 years ago, losing everything. And so I'm now having this feeling like I'm about to lose everything. And I'm also feeling like I'm losing grip on reality as the pandemic is hitting and as my kids are in distress. And I don't know what to do, just like everybody on the planet. I find myself in my bathroom one morning in my underwear, and I am having this spiral of negative thoughts. I look like shit. I don't know how to fix this. I wish somebody would solve this for me. I feel overwhelmed. I feel scared about my parents' health. I feel scared about everybody on the front lines. And even though I'm literally, like you, somebody that empowers other people, I didn't know what the fuck to say to myself. And as pathetic as it sounds, I found myself just raising my hand, just in a way to basically be like, shut up, Mel. Come on, girl. You, like, put your shoulders back, lift your chin. You got this. You can do this. And something shifted, and I went on with my day. And then the next morning, I walk into my bathroom, and this is the other weird thing about the high 5. I've literally either criticized myself or ignored myself in the mirror for decades. When you start to have a moment with yourself, the crazy part is you start to build a partnership with yourself.
That's interesting.
Like, you know, when you are pulling out of your driveway or you're walking down the street and you see a neighbor and they greet you, you will start to have that experience when you create this intentional moment with yourself in the mirror every morning.
And so as I started to do this, I thought, this is actually making me feel like the wind is at my back when I leave the bathroom. It's making me feel just like when you leave a huddle in sports and you high five, or you're a runner running a race or doing some big endurance challenge and some spectator high fives you, or another racer's like, come on, you got this, as you're dragging down low. It gives you a little energy. Like, I think too about this high five a lot. Like, I know you're friends with David Goggins. I'm a huge fan of Goggins. And I know there's a lot of people that watch this show, especially men, that are like, this sounds kind of stupid. This is the equivalent of Goggins' cookie jar moment. So we all think, like, we've all been raised like, tough love, hard on myself, this, bullshit. The research is clear on this. Being hard on yourself is not motivating. It's demotivating. And if you already feel like a failure, or you feel a sense of shame, or you're overwhelmed, beating yourself up for where you are does not work. It drives you into the gutter. The most motivating force in the world, on the planet, based on research, hands down, is empowerment, encouragement, support, and celebration. And for our entire lives, we have outsourced that to somebody else. The research is very clear. So the NBA study, they did this big study looking at NBA teams. And they could predict in the study who was going to be in the championship rounds based on, in the preseason, what teams had the most high fives, fist bumps, and back pats. Why? Because those kind of gestures create partnership and trust. And I'm here to tell you, when you start doing it in the mirror, you're creating partnership and trust with yourself. I'm going to take everybody back 4 years ago. So this is the first book. The High Five Habit is the first book that I have written and published in almost 5 years. Back in 2007, I released a book called The 5-Second Rule. And Lisa and her husband, Tom, played a pivotal role in one of the biggest professional breakdowns of my life. And they had no idea that it was happening at the time.
No clue.
And Lisa, I think you just found out about it by reading about it in chapter 12 of my new book.
Yep.
So here's what was going on. I had written the 5-Second Rule book. I had self-published it because I thought that that was the best thing to do. I had a dream of being a #1 New York Times bestselling author. And I put it up on my vision board, and I dreamed about it, and I thought about it, and I studied all the authors that we all admire. And I did my best to do all the things that you are supposed to do in order to sell enough books to grace the New York Times bestseller list, right? So I email my newsletter list, and I am doing speeches all over the place, and I'm pre-selling books as best I can in the back of a room with my pad of paper, taking people's, like, literally for months. I did everything I could. And when the book came out, I sent the email out to everybody. And folks on my email list and everybody I'm related to immediately went to Amazon to buy the book. And here's what happened. Within an hour or two, the book was listed as out of stock. Now, I thought, yes, yes, I have won. I am a best-selling author. I have sold out of Amazon in a matter of a few hours. Oh my God. Oh my God. This, like, literally, this proves all the things that everybody said about me in middle school is not true anymore. I've done it, Lisa. And then I started to realize I had not sold all the books. Because I had 20,000 books at Amazon. I did not have that many people on my email list. And people started to email back going, it's out of stock, it's out of stock, it's out of stock.
You think your dream, like the height of your freaking dreams come true at this point?
Yes, I think I've done it. Like, I've sold, like, I am a success. I am a phenomenon. This is unbelievable. I think the dreams are coming true. And then within a couple hours, people start emailing going, it's out of stock, Mel, it's out of stock, it's out of stock, it's out of stock. It dawns on me, there's no way I sold 20,000 books. There's no way. I call the printer that I worked with that helped me self-publish, and, you know, it's a little self-publishing publisher. And he tells me that he's seen this happen before, where when Amazon gets a flood of traffic to something that they're not expecting, they will turn off supply to make sure it's not a bunch of bots and to also check inventory. And we had no ability to figure this out. So for the first couple weeks that the book was available, it was out of stock. So here I am in this 2-week period where I have worked my ass off. I have done everything you're supposed to do, Lisa. And my book is out of stock. I have sent my entire marketing campaign to a product you can't get. And I'm thinking, why are you doing this to me, universe? I have worked hard. Why do I have to be the bad news bearers? Why am I not part of that super awesome group of best-selling authors? When is it going to be my turn? And I start to go down the drain. Enter Tom and Lisa Bilyeu. So when I come here and I am doing your show, I show up here and I'm like, this is my last hope. Because by the time this thing gets on air, maybe the book will be available. I have got to pull myself together. So I walk in here and I was just, I didn't know you yet because I only knew impact theory and I'd only seen it. I knew this was a big deal. I knew that being on Tom's show could really change things for me. And I walk in here and I feel like a complete failure. You are lovely and delightful. And I immediately start feeling like I don't freaking belong here. I mean, they just had this best-selling author and that best-selling author and this famous person was just here. What am I doing here? I am a self-published author with a book that's out of stock. I'm failing. I hope that they don't know because this is terrible. He is going to figure out before I enter the set that I don't belong here.
You think imposter syndrome galore?
Oh, completely. So I'm upstairs in the bathroom and I am having a case, no kidding, of stress diarrhea. I have got to empty the bowels because I am so sure that I'm about to be called out for the fraud that I am, that the book is not successful, that Tom's made a mistake. I look at the mirror, my cheeks are as red as a baboon's ass. I am sweating profusely. I've got pit stains on my red shirt. And then there's a knock on the door. We're ready for you, Mel. I splash water on my face. I literally am like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pull your shit together, Mel, get the fuck out there. And I open up the door and I go. And one of the things that you believe that I believe too is that your feelings are going to rise and they're going to fall. And feeling nervous and feeling scared and feeling on edge and imposter syndrome, it's all normal stuff. You got to develop the ability to feel all that stuff, have your cheeks be as red as a baboon's butt, and walk out there and do it anyway. That's what you've got to develop in life. And that moment taught me that. And there was something else that happened. So when I left that set, the whole time that the book was out of stock and I'm sitting here going, woe is me, and I've failed again, and I screw everything up, and why doesn't anything ever work out for me? I would catch myself and I would say this: there's no way, Mel, that you've worked this hard, that something amazing isn't going to happen. You have to keep going. You have to believe that this moment is preparing you for something amazing that hasn't happened yet.
The talk show experience was almost like, it's weird. It almost feels like it didn't happen.
Really?
Yeah.
It was your whole life for 2 years.
Yeah, but 175 shows. It was super intense. It was almost a spiritual experience because I had dreamt about it for as long as I could remember. And I stepped onto that talk show set with such a level of mastery. And the reason why I had a level of mastery is because I could look backwards at my life and see that I had been heading to that moment for my entire life. That the ability to create trust and take a complicated amount of information and get down to the human connection immediately, that began back in 1994 when I was a legal aid attorney doing criminal defense work in New York City. My ability to understand what victims of domestic violence go through goes all the way back to 1986 through 1988 when I was a crisis intervention counselor volunteering on a domestic violence hotline.
Wow.
My ability to read a teleprompter had to do with being at CNN. My ability to work 18-hour days was a function of the reality TV show world. My ability to relate to somebody who had lost everything was a function of what Chris and I had gone through. My ability, like just everything all of a sudden was like, and it's why I can say with such urgency that you have to have faith that this is happening for a reason, that this is leading somewhere.
You know, when you're about to meet a friend, somebody you really like at a cafe, you're going to go have a cup of tea. What do you feel right before you walk in the door?
Excitement, enthusiasm, energy, joy, positive nervousness, like that kind of like butterflies, even in a positive sense.
Yeah. So at this moment, I was 51 years old. In 51 years of being alive, I don't ever remember feeling that feeling about seeing myself.
Wow.
For the first time in my life, I had this sensation that I was excited to see the human being, Mel Robbins. Now, I've been excited to see an outfit or excited to see a haircut. I have never been excited to see the person. And so I round the corner and this sense of how profound this is hitting me. And I'm standing there brushing my teeth and I realize something really wild. There are always two of you in the bathroom together. There's you and there is a human being in the mirror, a person who needs you, a person who has been waiting for you to wake up and realize they are there and they need you to see them and to hear them and to love them and to support them. And so what's interesting, because you brought up morning routines, right, is that we all talk about the importance of setting our day up because it's how it ends up. We talk about gratitude and meditation and we know the extraordinary benefits of it. But I don't think anybody has truly amplified the fact that there is this dirty habit that we all have every single morning that is a part of your morning routine, unless you have weeded this out. And it is a habit of either ignoring yourself or beating the heck out of yourself every single morning in the mirror. I mean, 91% of women don't like how they look. 50% of us can't even look at ourselves in the mirror. You're a big proponent of the growth mindset. You guys talk about it all the time on this show, right? So researchers wanted to know, what is the most empowering way to motivate kids through a really big challenge, okay? They divide the kids into 3 groups. This takes the marshmallow test to a whole nother level. You got one group of kids that are doing a challenging task and they're getting the fixed mindset praise, which we all know does not work. Oh, Tom, you're so smart. Oh, Tom, I love your glasses. That's going to help you. Oh, Tom, you got a great smile. Oh, Tom, you know, I just love so much about you. I know you can do this. So that's one group. The second group gets the growth mindset kind of praise. Tom, you are such a hard worker. Tom, your perseverance is unbelievable. Tom, you just keep going. That does better, obviously, than telling you that you're smart because it makes you motivated to work hard. The third group, they just got a simple high five. The researchers didn't even say anything to the kids. They just walked up, gave them a high five. The group of kids that got a simple high five outperformed, outworked through all of the challenges, all of the other forms of praise. Why? Because a high five is something deeper than praise. It fulfills your most fundamental needs as a human being. When somebody high fives you, you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel like somebody has acknowledged you for the unique person that you are.
I literally, when I think back 3 years ago where I was like saw one of your videos or Gary's videos or somebody, I'm like, oh, I just need to start filming the book lines at these and it was a moment. It was this little amount of wisdom inside of me that I listened to. And I am telling you, that is the power. You got to tune out the noise and you got to learn how to make what I call a quiet decision.
Yeah.
A quiet decision where you shh, and you hear what your heart is urging you to do.
Your mind collects mental lint. That's right. That's all that doubt is. That's all that fear is. That's all that anxiety is. That's all that worry is. That's all that people pleasing is. This is lint from life that is collected in your brain. And you know what? Lint stands for something. Get your pencils ready. You lose inspiration due to negative thoughts. That's all that's happening. You're not broken. You're just blocked. The filter in your mind is blocked, just like a dryer filter gets blocked by lint. And you can't think this stuff away. You got to take action. And the single most effective tool on the planet, hands down, to wipe away the lint in your mind, to wipe away the doubt, to wipe away the fear, to wipe away the anxiety, is the 5-second rule. I'm dead serious about this. When you feel the fear rise up, when you feel the self-doubt start to block, when you feel the anxiety start to take over, when you feel like you're losing the inspiration to move, you're just going to count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I know it sounds dumb, but trust me on this one. Counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, wipes the lint off the filter in your brain. That lint that makes you lose your inspiration to act due to negative thoughts. And once you get to 1, it's clear. So your confidence and your courage can flow right through you.
If you can't stand in front of the mirror and raise your hand and high five yourself just because you got your ass out of bed and you're breathing, you will never get what you want in life, ever. There is something in the resistance to it. And if you unpack the resistance, you will find the reason why you don't have what you want. You either think you're not worthy of it, or you think that it's kind of stupid, or you have been brought up to believe that for women in particular, you're going to be bitchy or selfish or not likable if you're celebrating yourself. There is something in the resistance to you simply cheering for yourself. Your interview releases, and I all of a sudden get this email from Audible. I had forgotten that I had published an audiobook. I had self-published that too. My husband had uploaded it himself to the Amazon platform called ACX, which is a self-publishing platform for Audible. I had completely forgotten about the audiobook because I was so focused on this New York Times things. And by the way, here's another thing. You can't make the New York Times list if you're a self-published author. Something I didn't even know when I started. So here I thought I'd fail, didn't achieve my dream, the whole thing. I get this email. Your monthly report is ready. And I'm like, monthly report? What are they talking about? I click on that report. I open it up. I am literally like, oh my God, audiobooks. Audiobooks? Who knew audiobooks were a thing? Here's what happened. The entire time that I kept going, something amazing was happening, Lisa. They were going to the hardcover, but it wasn't available. They bought the only thing that was available, the audiobook. The 5-second rule became the #1 audiobook of the year, Lisa. It, to this day, is the most successful self-published audiobook in the history of Audible. And it created a brand new partnership that I have with Audible. Something, by the way, that I never would have had happen had my hardcover campaign be successful. And here's the other thing. I have never achieved my goal of being a New York Times bestselling author, and I might never achieve it. I've never made a traditional bestseller list. And it proves something that I believe very deeply. And that is that your dreams and the things that you put on your vision board have a very important purpose. They pull you through your fears. They inspire you to take action, but they are not necessarily meant to be achieved. I believe when you pursue your dreams and you keep going and you keep telling yourself that if I work hard, something amazing is going to happen, you'll achieve something better, something that you don't even know or can even think about right now because it's not even on your radar screen. Those dreams are dots
on the map of your life that pull you in a direction you're meant to go. But you might never end up there because you're meant to end up somewhere else. Literally, it also, when it comes to productivity and focus and fulfillment, it's not when you get up, it's how you get up. And there's all this crazy research. Like, I'm not some sort of like psycho about the alarm clock or the snooze button. I personally love sleeping in. But I also know that as somebody that struggled with anxiety for 3 decades, lying in bed in the morning or at night is the worst place I can be.
Absolutely.
That is where the anxiety can pin you down like a gravity blanket. And so understanding that the habit of hitting the snooze button has a detrimental impact on your productivity all day. Because what happens is when you wake up, your brain is typically ready to wake up. When you drift back to sleep after hitting the snooze button, your brain drifts back into a sleep cycle, which based on research takes about 75 minutes to complete. When the alarm goes off 9 minutes later, your brain is now trapped in a sleep cycle, and researchers say it takes you about 4 hours to snap out of what they call sleep inertia. That impacts your productivity all day long. And so you're complaining that I didn't get enough sleep and you feel groggy. No, you actually got plenty of sleep. You screwed yourself over by hitting the snooze button, and now your prefrontal cortex can't snap back into operation until you're ready to go. The reticular activity system, the RAS for short, if you don't know what it is, picture a hairnet over your brain that is a live network. And the RAS is a filter, and it has a huge job. And it is a filter that blocks out 99% of the world and lets in about, 0.000000001%. And it is always changing. There are only 4 things, Tom, that get through the hairnet on your head. The sound of your name, and you've experienced this because you've been walking through a crowd and you're like, did somebody say my name? Right? The
Cocktail party effect.
Cocktail party effect.
Weird.
The second thing that gets through is any sort of threat. So if you hear a loud noise and you go like this, there are lots of noises you didn't hear, but the loud one you kind of duck because it's a threat. The third thing is when your partner is interested in sex with either you or someone else. That's why you're like, why are you checking that person out, right? You know, because the brain is letting that information in. The fourth thing, and this is where the transformation begins. Your brain will let in anything that it believes is important to you. The Zeigarnik effect is the documented fact that when something is important to you, and I'll explain what that means, your brain opens up a checklist in your mind. And now your brain, once it puts this item on your checklist, it will store the checklist in your subconscious. It's encoded in your RAS, and your mind is now on the alert to spot things related to it. The way that you make yourself feel like something is important is your nervous system goes on alert while you're thinking about it. You're either super excited about something, oh, this is super important, or this is the trauma effect. You go on alert and you have something really bad happen, which is why things continue to bring it up throughout the rest of your life. So when you understand that if something's important to you, your filter will change in real time how you see the world. You now know how to change your brain to work for you. And looking for hearts is the way I'm going to prove to you that this happens. I want to give you one other example because everybody's experienced this. If you've ever gone shopping for a new car or you've dreamt about having a new car, what happens immediately when you get excited about that new car is your mind goes, Zeigarnik effect, oops, okay, Tom wants the new Bronco. That's cool. So what do you see now? You see Broncos everywhere. Now, they were always there, but your mind is letting them in because the Zeigarnik effect is now made it on a checklist. It's changed the RAS. And so I am going to prove to you that it is unbelievably cool that you can change the way that you view the world by looking for heart-shaped objects. So tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to start your day by high-fiving yourself in the mirror. I want you to examine what the resistance about, because you're going to start to then be able to unpack what's holding you back. Then you're going to go out in the world and just tell your mind, I want to see a heart today.
Look for a rock, look for a leaf, look in your like latte. Is there a little shape there? Is there an oil stain on the floor? And when you see one, stop and go, like there's a scavenger hunt. I never would have seen that before. Thank you, brain. Now your brain's like, woo, more hearts. You will start to see hearts everywhere. And when you can start to train your brain and realize, whoa, this is actually a cool thing. This is high-fiving your mind. When you can see hearts, you can now go, wait a minute. If I can change what I see based on what I tell it, maybe if I got serious about not constantly saying I'm a failure, I wouldn't attach that or see it everywhere. Maybe if I got serious about saying, I can figure anything out. This is happening for a reason. Instead of, you say, okay, I'm going to learn something with this. It changes the way your brain filters everything. And this is such an important piece to the book because we've all had the experience where you love somebody deeply and you see all their incredible attributes and all they see is failure or all they see is the weight that they can't lose. And it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what kind of pep talk or support you give them. Your loved one still only sees what they hate about themselves. Blame the filter in your brain. You have been bitching about your appearance or the weight on your scale, or the fact that you're a failure for so long, your brain believes it's important to you to see reasons why this is true. And one of the things I got to say about this, and everything in the book, is the tools are simple, Tom. But it's super important to say, just because you change and start celebrating yourself, it's not going to make the weight disappear suddenly. It doesn't change the number on the scale overnight. What it changes is you. And that changes your ability to deal with the problems and the issues you want to change in your life.
How does your favorite sports team begin the game? By high-fiving each other to send yourself out into the game. But when researchers actually studied NBA teams, they could predict who's going to be the most successful teams at the end of the season and who's going to be at the bottom of the league based on one characteristic at the beginning of the season in the preseason. And that is, how many times does the team in the preseason do fist bumps, high fives, or pats on the back? And what they found is it's the teams that do that the most in the beginning have the winningest record. And the question is why? Well, the reason why is these gestures are more than gestures. They are symbols of trust and partnership. They build momentum. And so many of us are struggling in life with people-pleasing and guilt and all of these emotions because we have broken that partnership with ourselves. Yes. And this is a way every morning after brushing your teeth, we're going to stack this habit. Put the toothbrush down, pick up your hand, look yourself in the mirror and say, how am I going to show up for that human being today? And seal it with a high five. That's it.
Let me explain what happens. So there's a really interesting concept called ghosts in the nursery. And so trauma patterns get automated because they're not experienced in your brain, they're felt in your nervous system. And so it's why you can have a pattern from your past, but be completely unaware that it's running your life right now because it's stored not in your conscious thought, but in your nervous system. And you feel it in your body before it even gets into your head. And so there's this concept called ghosts in the nursery, which basically means there's all kinds of that goes on when you're little that you may or may not remember in your mind, but your body remembers it. So for example, if you had parents that were just stressed out and they come home and they've been busy and you're sitting there playing on the floor and there's toys everywhere and mom or dad's reaction to a mess is to scream, that creates this kind of thing in your nervous system. Now, you may not remember that episode that happened on May 17th, 1972, but your nervous system remembers what it's like. So fast forward, you're now 51 years old and you walk in the house and there's a mess everywhere. And even though you have said, I'm not going to bulldoze and yell at anybody, my body recognizes the situation. So what do? You repeat the pattern you saw. And so what I'm working on right now is a pattern that is encoded in my nervous system. I was trying to create a video 2 days ago for Share the Mic now. Trying to create a video, and I'm like doing take after take because I want to get it right. And my daughter comes waltzing into the room and was like, how long are you going to be doing this? And I was like, can't you see that I'm working? I literally like screamed at her. And she looked at me, Lewis, and she goes, you have a real problem.
Wow. How old is your daughter?
20. And I said, I calmly said, you're right, I do. When I get interrupted, I lose control of the response. And I'm working so hard. And the way that and I'm clearly not mastering this yet, but the way that you do it is as you feel it rise up, you have to, you can use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can use just take a quick breath. You can notice the pattern, and you've got to create a pause between the emotion rising up and the reaction that gets automated. And for many people, the reaction, Lewis, is to run away. It's to leave the room. It's to avoid the confrontation. It was just easy, hold on, let me let the clock go.
Even though you hate being interrupted by anything, this is a great interruption.
See, I did. Like I didn't do the bulldoze. I was calm because it wasn't a human being. I'm only mean to human beings. A lot of people run away. They avoid conflict. They say it's just easier. But if running away and avoiding conflict continues to create a pattern where you feel invisible and your boundaries are tromped on, that's a pattern. And here's the other thing about patterns. Running away and being quiet might have saved you when you were little. Because if you were quiet and out of the room, you didn't get hit, you didn't get yelled at, you were out of harm's way. So when you were little, it was a genius pattern because it protected you. But the issue for adults is that, again, we walk around with the patterns that we created when we were 8 years old in different situations than we are in now. And now we are completely a robot to these patterns.
Jealousy is one of the most powerful directional signals on the planet because you're only jealous of people that are doing things or have things that you actually want. It's impossible to be fake jealous. Whatever you're jealous of is hitting something deeply personal. Pay attention to it. Instead of stewing in it, go, oh, flip it. That's interesting. I wonder why I'm jealous. What is it about it? Oh, it's that they're doing it consistently. It's that they've built a team. It's that they've aligned their work together so that they're spending more time together. How could I take those things that I'm really now really inspired by and take action and go get them in my life? Because the thing about jealousy is it's just your inspiration that's blocked. Jealousy is sort of the insecurity that you have that blocks this inspiration. I guarantee you, back to the Uber driver, he's jealous of all the other actors earning Oscars because he's so inspired by the thought of doing that in his own life, but his insecurity is blocking action. His fear is blocking action. So instead of it being inspiration, it shows up as jealousy. And I'm here to tell you, the second you feel jealousy, frickin' whoop, stop. Okay, let's unpack that. What exactly is it about it? And now, if I were inspired by it, because there's enough success to go around for everybody, if I can use that as a roadmap to then go figure out how I might be able to do that for myself, wow, talk about a game changer. And now let's add in the high five. What if every time I took a little step, I celebrated myself for just doing it? Now you're building small wins and momentum in a direction that's meant for you. That's how you change your life.
We encourage people to break boundaries. They feel like they're limited, but you talk about your boundaries are that have served you. So obviously it's a different type of boundary, but
So here's the thing.
What boundaries do you need to help yourself to protect yourself, and which ones do you need to grow past that are holding you back?
I think that the definition with boundaries that has helped me the most is understanding that boundaries are for me, they're not for you. And the single biggest mistake that we make in any relationship, particularly romantic ones, but also work-related ones, is we do not express what we need. Any pattern can be replaced. Change isn't personal. It just feels personal. Change is just about identifying patterns and replacing them with new ones. That's it. And it'll take a little while because they're encoded in your nervous system, and your default is to just do it yourself. But you cannot, as a rule, punish other people for you didn't communicate.
Right.
So I'll give you the perfect example. So Chris and I have been married for 24 years. And when I was before the talk show and I made my living mostly by, doing 100 speeches a year, I would be on the road 150 days a year. And when I would come home, there was always something that pissed me off.
Like what? Like, the trash isn't taken out, the clothes are here, or is it something else?
Oh, no, I'm way worse than that. Are you kidding? I would walk in after being gone for 5 or 6 days, and there on the island in the kitchen was a vase that had dead flowers, the ones that I had bought for myself a week before. And it was as if everybody in my family had been walking around the island for 6 days as if there was some dead flower sculpture in the middle of the island. And so I would come home, and first of all, the only person that's really excited to see me is a dog. And my family did sit me down at one point and they said, you realize when you're not here, we have our own lives. So you don't put your lives on hold while, for us, and we're not putting our lives on hold. So it's not that we're not excited to see you, but we're not organizing our whole lives around when mom comes home.
Right.
Which is actually really good.
To be like the dog, excited and running up and jumping in your arms and kissing you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't. But I think that's cool because that means that they're independent and doing their own thing.
They've set boundaries.
They've set boundaries with me. Perfect. So for probably 6 months, I would get pissy and I would walk in and put my bags down and I grab the flowers and I demonstratively, how many times has everyone done this? Throw them out loudly like, are you
everyone
getting
hears
my
you.
Communication? Yeah, I'm getting my communication. Just throwing these dead flowers out, communicate to you that you should buy me flowers. Like, I'm not saying that, but that's what the body language is, right? How dare you? I have been off. I've been in 4 cities, and then you become a mart. Like, I'm disgusting when I tell this story. But this is it. This is like, so.
Well, I see you've got some lovely flowers behind you that look alive, so that's good to see.
Oh, that's nice. So, Lupin. So, I do love flowers. So finally, I just said to Chris, you know what would make me feel amazing is if when I came home, you had just bought some flowers. Just go to just when you're at the grocery store. It doesn't, you don't have to order. Like I'm saying, buy the $5 pack of half dead tulips, just something. Okay. And then he said, why? And this is the most important part of expressing. And look, you don't have to give an explanation if you're trying to like cut off a toxic person. But if you want to express boundaries with somebody because you want them to understand you more deeply, give them the why. I said, because it makes me think that you are excited for me to come home and that you knew I was coming because I'm starting to feel forgotten. So underneath the anger, Lewis.
Wow.
Was hurt and feeling like I didn't matter. And so I'll be darned, I walk in and there they are. And I literally feel so seen.
What are the key principles of how someone deals with themselves when they love themselves, when they care for themselves? What are those key tenets, those key values that we can draw ourselves to and measure against and say, am I doing that for myself?
I think at the heart of it are 2 foundational habits that you need. And one you already mentioned. It's being kind to yourself. It's really that simple. And I know you know the study that they did in the UK where they looked at every possible behavior change that you could do in life. And whether it was changing in diet, meditation, exercise, relationship changes, all of it. The one change that has the biggest impact on fulfillment and happiness is being kind to yourself. And it's the one change we practice the least because I don't think we know how.
Yeah, how do we be kind to ourselves?
Well, number 1, stop the beat down in the mirror. And despite the fact that it might feel weird or you're going to resist it or you got a lot of dust Oh boy, we gotta wipe it away. Ooh, it's more like mud. It's not like dust. Jay has dust. The rest of us are caked with mud. Gotta get some elbow grease in there. The high five habit every day is wiping that away. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when you catch yourself in the what if loop or the beat down, use the 5-second rule, count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, interrupt it, and start just interrupting it. Because you don't have to listen to it. You can't always control when it pops up, but you can start to create distance from it. Meditation obviously helps with that, but in terms of the hand-to-fist combat with your own brain, I prefer punch back, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I literally go, I'm not thinking about that. Another strategy that you can use as you're doing the hand-to-hand combat with your own brain is come up with like an avatar for this negative voice, okay? And make it really good. Like when our son was really profoundly struggling with anxiety, he's 16 now, he started to call that worry wart in his head that was beating him up, Oliver. And he looked like this big, pimply bully of a kid that was out of the Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And he would literally say when he was 9 years old, "Shut up, Oliver. Like, you're not invited to sleep." Like, he would literally talk to it. And it sounds like you're giving your kid multiple personalities. That's not actually what's happening. You're leveraging objectivity. So you separate yourself from the voice that's talking to you.
Yes.
Another thing that you can do, I love this for worrying. Oh, this is a genius, to steal your word, move. When you catch yourself doing the what ifs, because we know there's two forms of worrying, right? There's the type of worrying that just destroys you. That's destructive worrying, where you just ruminate, what if, what if, what if. Then there's the positive form of worrying, which is productive because it motivates you to change. When you get stuck in the what if, what if, what if, interrupt it with this, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go, what if it all works out? What if this turns out to be one of the hardest things I do, but the best decision I've ever made? What if placing a bet on myself was the moment my life changed? What if it all works out? Because you can't argue with that. And it literally stops that sort of cycling, because worrying is just a habit that you have. It's like a pathway that you've plowed in your mind, and it's a protection mechanism. You're actually not a procrastinator. You're not a worrier. You're just afraid.
Yeah.
And by staying in your mind, you think you're safe. And really what you're doing is you're holding yourself back from living the life that you're meant to live.
I love that. That's such a great answer. So that's be kind to yourself.
I've got a couple of,
That was be kind to yourself. And then there's another one.
And then the other ones. Keep the little promises that you make to yourself. And there's two simple ways you can practice this that everybody's going to hate. When you set the alarm the night before, I don't believe in having the same wake-up time every morning, because I think if you have a normal life, things are constantly changing. And so I think if you were to have one simple habit, which is the night before you go to bed, think about when you need to wake up to truly support yourself. And then intentionally set your alarm. And if you want to get really intentional with the science here, make it like a random odd number. Don't make it 6 o'clock, make it 6:17, because there's a purpose behind that. And then when that alarm rings, don't think about it like an obligation. I want you to think about it like it's a promise that you're going to practice keeping. And this is where you can use the 5-second rule. You're just going to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to interrupt all of the desire in your mind and body to stay in bed or to hit the snooze button or to argue against what you need to do. And you're going to push through that resistance and take action. And by getting out of bed simply when you said you would, you are, again, behavioral activation therapy. You're acting like a person who keeps their promises.
You talk a lot about taking responsibility for that, recognizing nobody's coming to save you. It's something you said in the book. It's something that you've said in interviews. It's something that I absolutely think is really powerful. How do we use that? Why is that important to recognize?
Well, it's important to recognize because, first of all, nobody is coming. I mean, if you've been sitting around waiting for somebody to discover you, to pick you, to save you, to rescue you, to give you your shot, it's not happening. Like, at some point, you got to wake up and realize when you're 18 and you're out of that house, you have to parent yourself. Your life is your responsibility. And as a woman, one of the things that I found to be extraordinarily transformational is when I stopped, in a very traditional sense, looking to my partner to be responsible for
that's so
providing for me, providing financially, providing the support, providing. When I realized, wait a minute, it starts with me. I have to be able to figure out how to make myself happy. That's, by the way, the secret to a happy relationship. Marry somebody who's happy and work on your own happiness.
Preach.
And so when you stop outsourcing your happiness, your validation, your support, all of it, and you bring it back in and you get responsible for it, it sounds scary. It's so liberating because you could do anything. When you're responsible, when you're the driver of your life, when you're not looking out to anybody else to fix it for you, can you ask for help? Of course. But the buck stops with you. You're the one that has to do the work. You're the one who has to push your own ass. You're the one who has to figure out what makes you happy. You're the one who has to figure out and become self-aware about what you need. And then you're the one that has to find whatever it is, the courage or being humble enough to ask for help. Even if it's asking for help from the biggest ally that you have, which is the person staring back at you in the mirror every damn morning. If you Google word wheel or wheel of emotions, you will find that if you ask somebody, name as many emotions as you can. Most people can name 3, happy, sad, angry. There's literally like 113 of them. From disgusted to hopeless to... And if you start with a core, this thing allows you to start with a core emotion and go out. Because back to the flower example, I was expressing anger. That's not what I was feeling. I was feeling invisible and forgotten. And so the word wheel is something that we used several times a week to help people go from the thing that they are expressing to communicating what you're feeling, which is a lot like the work that you wrote about in your book around wearing masks. Getting to the root of the core emotion you're feeling but not expressing.
Ow, I can't open my eyes.
No, stop touching your eyes.
I can't open my eyes anymore. Okay.
Don't open your eyes. Don't open your eyes.
Mom, please, I'm freaking out. I need the ice cream. Please.
Is it still burning though?
It's still burning? Here. Refresh your routine. Why is this important? I'll tell you why this is important. Because there is so much science that talks about the power of your morning routine. And there's also so much noise out there about the morning routine. And I don't know about you, but when I read all these articles about the power of a morning routine, I'm typically reading them by some male influencer who clearly doesn't have children yet, or some male CEO. No offense to the dudes, but all of the articles out there tend to be written by guys that have 2.5 hours before work starts to somehow drink mushroom tea and meditate and go to yoga and exercise and drink bulletproof coffee and sit in an infrared sauna. And I don't know what planet these people live on, but they clearly don't have children or a job they need to get to at 8 o'clock in the morning. And not to make anyone wrong, I'm being realistic. I'm being realistic about the fact that you need a morning routine, but you need one that works for you and for where you are in your life in this season. You see, I had a morning routine that used to take me 30 to 40 minutes last year when I had more time. I've had a morning routine that took an hour when I had time and the ability to go for a jog in the morning. I'd incorporate that in the morning routine. Do you realize that my morning routine right now has been responsible for helping me curb my anxiety? It's responsible for why I'm so successful and I'm able to be productive. My morning routine, 10 minutes long. That's it. It's 10 minutes long because that's what works for me in this season of my life. Anyone that's going through some really confronting stuff in their personal life, that's me right now. Don't really feel ready to discuss any of the details, but it is a very challenging moment right now for me. And the waves of emotion, all of them are coming and going right now in my life. And I want to share something that I am finding helpful as I move through this really
tough moment in time. I remind myself that these feelings are temporary, number one, and that helps me find strength in knowing that I'm going to learn something in this moment. I'm going to ride through this pain, and I'm going to come out stronger, and I won't always feel like that, like I do right now. The second thing is I try not to attach myself to the waves that are coming of sadness and anger and fear and frustration and just all of it. And by that, I mean I let the wave of emotion come into my body. I try not to hold on to it, grip it, attach it. I feel what I need to feel, and I breathe it out. That's number two. And number three, a lot of journaling. A lot of journaling. Just pouring out everything I'm feeling as a way to excavate it responsibly. Anyway, I wanted to make this video because I know you're probably going through something. I know you're probably experiencing waves of emotion, frustration, sadness, anger, joy, whatever it may be. You're human. This is a human experience to feel emotional waves. And so remind yourself, whether it's a high or a low, it's temporary. You can get through this. Breathe through the wave. Don't attach yourself to it and let it knock you over. And three, just dump everything you're feeling out into a journal instead of at other people. And that will help you process the emotions you need to process because you don't want to shove them down. It will help you get clear about where you want to go next and what you're meant to learn in this moment. And it will help you move through it with grace, with strength, with resilience.
How do we start to heal trauma within our body?
Excellent question. So we did a whole project for Audible Original called Take Control. That was all about, the thesis was this: any area of your life that you're stuck, I am willing to bet everything I have that you have a trauma pattern from your past that you've never healed. Mm-hmm. You got a boss that is abusive, guarantee you this has to do with a trauma pattern from your past. You can't succeed in the areas you want. You can't lose the weight. There's some pattern from your past. So the first thing is recognizing that you actually experienced trauma. And I am a huge proponent, as so many people are, of widening the definition, because I think up until about 5 years ago, most of us thought that trauma just meant, okay, you were in active duty, or you were in a huge accident or incident that was highly traumatic, or you survived some sort of physical, sexual, whatever abuse. Trauma is just about any kind of experience that you witness or you absorb that has your nervous system light up on edge and start warning you. So if you've ever had, you could have a critical parent and you just brace for them. You could have a parent that drinks like crazy and you brace at 5 o'clock because you know they're coming home. You could have been abandoned by a parent, or have a parent that was mentally ill, or have a parent that was so on your ass because they wanted you to be a pro football player. And so you were constantly on edge. It's when your nervous system fires up to a state of alert that now gets programmed into your body as a response. There's a reason why so many couples at 5 o'clock at night start bickering. And it has to do with the fact that at 5 o'clock is typically when a lot of parents 20 years ago were coming home from work. And that's when the arguing would start. And so what happens when you witness that or you feel it is, as a kid, you're now in a state where you're on edge.
Wow.
I see you rocking in your chair.
I actually have an incredible quote of yours about dreams. You say, when it comes to your dreams, you have two choices: pursue them or be haunted by them.
Mm-hmm. It's true. You can't forget a dream. You can't. Something that you want in your life, once you really want it and you give yourself permission to feel that desire, there's something called the Zeigarnik effect. And the Zeigarnik effect is this thing that happens in your brain. And I also think it's tied into your heart and your nervous system, but it happens in your brain where when something is important to you and you can feel that wave hit you, your mind takes note and goes, oh, I'm going to put this on the list in the file of my mind called This is Important. And whenever you are near anything that's related to what's important to you, your mind changes. The live network and filter of your brain will change in real time to try to alert you to the fact that you're near something that is important to you. And I'm not making this up. This has been proven in study after study. And I think that's why your dreams haunt you. You can ignore them. You can shove them down. You can tell yourself you don't want it anymore. But if you've ever wanted something deeply, it doesn't leave you. It gets stored in the subconscious part of your mind, waiting for you to remember that it's there and to get to work on it. If you've always dreamt of living in an amazing beach house somewhere, you will always think about it. And you'll either pursue it or you're going to be haunted by it. If you've ever thought about taking your grandmother's recipe and like doing something with that tomato sauce, you'll either pursue it or it's going to haunt you. And that's because of how you're designed as a human being. So you got two choices. You either do something about it, or you're going to live for the rest of your life with this thing in the back of your mind that slowly eats at you.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. If you want 50 more rules from Mel Robbins, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
If you're in a situation where you should do something and the excuses roll in, you only have 5 seconds before the excuses win.